want to thank Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock of Georgia, who will join us in just a bit to talk about the looming healthcare crisis in this nation. As you just heard, we're hosting this call because Donald Trump and the Republicans have unleashed the biggest increases to healthcare premiums in the history of this nation, and time is now running out. At midnight tomorrow, open enrollment starts. That's the moment for families, farmers, and small businesses around the country to shop for health insurance plans made accessible by the Affordable Care Act. But because of Trump's inaction, millions of Americans are going to face the sticker shock of healthcare costs that on average will double next year. The numbers are staggering. In New Jersey, for example, a typical family of four will go from paying $8,600 to more than $18,000. A 60-year-old couple who should be looking forward to their golden years in retirement will go from paying $6,000 to $26,000. Now, remember when the president said he'd bring down prices on day one? Well, it's been 9 months. We're waiting. And now he's doubling our healthcare costs. This is a complete and utter failure to lead on one of the biggest concerns facing Americans, which is affordability. Democrats are standing up and saying no. Trump has caused this cost of living red alert, and we are fighting back. Democrats want more Americans to get better care at a lower cost. Now, look, we fought Big Pharma and won, making sure that insulin is capped at just $35 a month for seniors. Thanks to Democrats, Medicare is negotiating prices on the most expensive drugs. And we're going to keep going. No matter how many times Donald Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson say they have concepts of a plan, we know that it's pure baloney. It's BS. Democrats are the party of healthcare. We are the party of making sure you and your loved ones can afford to go to the doctor. And we're here today with a very simple message. We want to reverse the cuts, lower costs, and save healthcare in this country. And I am thrilled to be joined by experts who know how high the stakes are. And with that, let me turn it over to one of my heroes, the great Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for hosting this occasion where we can speak truth to the American people through the press. It's interesting to hear what you had to say about how Republicans campaign that they're going to bring down costs, and instead they have one of the biggest increases in cost to America's working families in terms of health care. It's not only the biggest increase, it's also the biggest lie that they told, with the biggest impact on America's working families. I'm honored to be here with you, and with Laura has been a champion in terms of her advocacy for healthcare. Thank you, Kendall, for your bringing us on. And again, an honor to be with the Senator Reverend Warnock. I've heard him speak at Ebenezer Baptist Church, and as you know, that was Dr. King's church. And so with all of our initiatives that we've put forth to save the Affordable Care Act, we always begin with Dr. King. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and the most inhuman because it often results in physical death. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So we're very about the kitchen table accounting for America's families. This is about their health care. It's also about their financial health. So thank you for this. Now, what is happening now? They'll start to shop but some of them are already getting letters. I know in California, people are in other places in the country are getting letters as to how much this will cost. The Kaiser Family Foundation, they have said it'll be at least 114% increase in most families, at least. 80%, nearly 80% of the American people support the subsidies being renewed. And that's many Republicans, as well as Democrats and independents. So the numbers are with us on this. In addition to the injustice in terms of making it totally unaffordable to people, there's also what they're doing on food. I believe that food is medicine. And at this same time, they are refusing to spend money that is there for this purpose. That would take us well into several weeks in time for us, hopefully, for Congress to open up so that we can negotiate how we go forward. So in every way, again, look what they've done. 20 million, at least, people off of Medicaid, $500 billion out of Medicare, and then this assault on the Affordable Care Act. when we passed this legislation, we viewed it as the third pillar: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act for health and financial health for the American people. Ever since we passed it, the Republicans have tried to get rid of it. 70 times in the in the Congress, they had legislation to get rid of it. In 2018, the president, Trump, then the president, said, Obamacare sucks. Obamacare sucks. This was the dignity of the White House. Obamacare sucks. No, it doesn't suck. There are other things that suck around here, but Affordable Care is not one of them. It doesn't suck. It cures. And we had 10,000 events around the country where people told their stories. They told their stories. My wife had breast cancer. Someone else, our child came home, was born with a heart condition. My father had a stroke. My brother is disabled. Telling their stories. It wasn't about politics, and it wasn't about provisions of the bill. It was about their personal stories. With that, we won 40 seats, 31 of them in Trump districts. I mention that, Mr. Chairman, because thank you for your participation in all the outside mobilization. We could not have passed the bill without the outside mobilization to begin with, and we saved it with outside mobilization. And once again, we will. And that's why it's important for us to have sessions like this where the American people can know what is at stake in it and what is at risk for them, both stake and risk, and how we can prevent it from happening. I particularly want to make a point about women in all of this, because women are largely the caregivers, and issues that relate to children, family members who are sick, and the rest, and women paying some of the bills at home and knowing the financial stakes here. Women have a lot to lose if this goes forward in terms of how they manage for themselves and for their families, and issues that relate to childbirth and the rest. So again, women know this, understand this. We just have to make sure they understand what the Republicans are trying to do with this. So this is a great moment for us, a great moment to once again live up to the promise of Martin Luther King when he talked about how dangerous this was for people. It is, again, the public wants this. They're aware of it. Now, just a couple things. Taking this money from the subsidies and the rest, to give it for a tax break for the wealthiest people in America. Sinful. Sending $40 billion to Argentina to benefit their high-level investors instead of feeding America's children and seniors, et cetera. And again, that $40 billion would cover quite a lot of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So this is, again, as I said at the start, it's a values debate, the values of Martin Luther King, the values of family life in our country, and also the statement of values that our budget must be. It must be a statement of our values. Instead, this is a cash and carry thing for the president and his friends. Forward to hearing from Laura, who has again been just a champion with the most eloquence. Nothing is more persuasive, Laura, than you're telling your story. And as I said, these tens of thousands of people who told their stories around the country. Outside mobilization makes all the difference in how we succeed in this values debate. I'm pleased to yield to you, Laura. Laura Packard, thank you.
Thank you so much, Speaker Emerita. It is my pleasure to be here. My name is Laura Packard, and the Affordable Care Act saved my life. I am also the founder of Voices of Healthcare Action and serve as Executive Director of Healthcare Voter. 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and my treatment included 6 months of chemotherapy and a month of radiation, and that was not cheap. And while I was going through this, I also had to fight to keep my insurance, because the day after my first chemotherapy appointment, Republicans in Congress voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which was keeping me alive. And so fast forward 8 years later, I'm one of 22 million Americans who rely on the Affordable Care Act to get healthcare coverage. And again, Republicans are attacking our healthcare with no plan to replace it. Open enrollment starts this weekend, and I'm going to be one of the people that's going to go register for my health insurance for next year. And I already received a notice that my insurance rate is going up about $100 every month. So I'm going to pay over $1,000 thanks to Trump and Republican sabotage of the Affordable Care Act. And many people are not going to be able to afford this sabotage. I will find a way. I have to, because as a cancer survivor, I can't go without health insurance. But too many Americans, millions of Americans, are going to be facing 20%, 50%, 100% increases. They won't be able to afford it. They will drop health insurance. Millions of Americans will be uninsured. This will have ripple effects across our entire healthcare system as more hospitals close, more medical employers lose their jobs, and then the existing hospitals will get overcrowded as people use them since the closest hospital has closed, and all the additional suffering of millions of people going without health insurance, which again, we're all going to pay for in higher premiums to cover the uncompensated care that people will still get, because whether you have insurance or not, life happens. People get sick. There are car accidents. People have strokes, heart attacks, cancer diagnoses. Whether or not you have insurance does not affect whether or not you need health care, because eventually everybody needs health care. Republicans are still refusing to negotiate with Democrats who are fighting to extend the enhanced Affordable Care Act tax credits to protect healthcare and lower costs. So now is the time to act. I mean, the time to act was months ago, but now is really the time to act, because open enrollment starts this weekend. People have already received notices. And when they go to their state website or healthcare.gov this weekend and get sticker shock, even if Congress acts, people may give up on the idea of having health insurance next year and not go back and not try. So I know better than most that the consequences of this are life and death.
Yeah, so that's right. I'm not on video.
Yes.
And now I'm turning back to Chair Martin, because I think we have another special guest.
Well, thank you so much. And we're going to bring Senator Warnock on in just a moment. I do want to remind folks that it didn't have to be this way. For months, Democrats have been sounding the alarm and showing up to work, by the way, showing up to work to extend these ACA premium tax credits that keep health insurance costs in check. During that same time, Republicans have refused to do their jobs. They're lazy, they're inept, they are singularly focused on keeping a failed lame duck president happy while he demolishes the White House to build a ballroom. Guess what? Americans don't want a ballroom. They want affordable health care. And on top of this, the only Republican accomplishment this year was a budget that destroys nursing homes, raises energy prices, and takes food away from starving families. In less than a year, they have dismantled America's safety net just to shovel permanent tax breaks, as you heard Speaker Pelosi say, into the pockets of billionaires. Americans don't want the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies to get another windfall. They want to be able to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Now think about this. Because my father-in-law will have to wait even longer for an ambulance and drive further and further away to get health care, all while the richest Americans can fully deduct the cost of their private jets on their taxes. In what world does any of this make sense? Now, to help us answer that question, I'm happy to introduce my friend from the great state of Georgia, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock. Take it away, Senator.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's great to be here with you. And Laura, thank you so very much for sharing your story. It's wonderful to be here with Speaker Emerita Pelosi. Folks, we are in a fight for health care. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who pastored the church that I'm still privileged to serve, said that of all the injustices, inequality in healthcare is the most shocking and the most inhumane. And so that's why we're standing up for the 15 million Americans who've already lost their health insurance because of the cuts to Medicaid. And we're standing up for the 22 million Americans who right now are going to healthcare.gov and they're discovering that their healthcare premiums have doubled, have tripled, have quadrupled. In other words, they cannot afford healthcare. Healthcare was expensive enough, but now I'm speaking to folks who are putting off their retirement. They're literally closing down their businesses. They're foregoing healthcare altogether because they cannot afford healthcare. And so let me be really clear. I don't like government shutdowns, but this is where we are. This is a Republican government shutdown. They have the White House, they have the House, they have the Senate. They can open up government anytime they want. But this is a choice that they have made. And let me tell you another choice that they've made, an awful, and I believe immoral choice. SNAP recipients are not a part of this. They have been dragged into this. There is literally no reason at all why SNAP recipients cannot receive their benefits. But craven politicians have decided to pit hungry people against sick people. And somewhere I read in the scripture that God's my work. The master said, I was hungry and you fed me. I was sick and you visited me. And somebody asked, Lord, when were you hungry? How could you have been hungry? Lord, when were you sick? He said, inasmuch as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it also unto me. The president has the authority. USDA has the authority. The speaker knows this. They have everything they need to ensure that EBT cards are reloaded this weekend and over the next couple of days. This is a choice. So whatever people think about the shutdown, I think there's something deeply immoral about using hungry children as pawns in a political game. And so I'm going to stand up. I'm proud of those who are on this call. I'm proud of the people in Georgia who saved America. I won't let you forget it, a few years ago when they sent John Ossoff and myself to the Senate. But it's going to take all of us in this moral moment, and we cannot give in to those who are trying to weaponize despair. And that's why I'm going to continue to fight to fund healthcare and to reopen the government and to remind Donald Trump, who is literally putting a wrecking ball to the White House and a wrecking ball to our economy, that this is not his house, it's the people's house, and this is not his country. The power belongs to the people. So thank you for standing up, and I'm deeply honored to be with you in this fight.
Thank you so much, Senator, for those powerful remarks, and thank you so much to our speakers. We're going to open it up for a brief Q&A. We only have a little bit of time left, but we'll try and get to as many questions as possible. As a reminder, if you have a question, please drop it into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And so with that, we'll start with Kevin from News Nation. To, I think, Chairman Martin and Speaker Emerita Pelosi and Senator Warnock, do you think that the Obamacare premium prices and the shutdown will have an impact on Tuesday's elections?
Should I go? Should I go first since we have California? Yes, I do indeed, because in fact, that is the Affordable Care Act is one of the things that is at stake in this election. The Republicans know that they were on a losing side of things. That's why they asked Texas to give them more seats for the House of Representatives. Because in terms of this issue, the healthcare issue, the cost of healthcare, they're losing this fight. In our campaigning, we have talked about healthcare being on the ballot with this, and I expect a big victory, not just a victory, a big victory on Tuesday, because people understand how this affects them. You know, there's so much at stake with this redistricting and all the rest, about our Constitution, about the rule of law, about free and fair elections, the independence of the judiciary, all those things. But I say we save democracy at the kitchen table. And at the kitchen table, one of the biggest expenses is healthcare. And for the Republicans to be so oblivious to what the healthcare costs mean to America's family's budget, and say instead we want to give a tax break to the rich instead of being fair to American people. Again, these subsidies are very, very important. They make the difference in people having access to health care, which, by the way, has so many other benefits that go with it. So yes, this is an important part of our campaign in California. What does this election mean to America's working families? It means access to health care.
And I'll just add to that, thank you, Speaker, that in New Jersey and Virginia, of course, you have Abigail Spanberger in Virginia and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, who have been focused exclusively on affordability, right? Donald Trump and the Republicans promised that they were going to bring down the cost for people's lives, make it easier for them to actually, live their lives and achieve their dream of climbing the economic ladder and building a better life for them and their families. He hasn't delivered on any of that, clearly. In fact, he's made it a lot worse through his destructive economic policies, which are hurting so many Americans right now. They can barely put groceries on the table. The cost of housing is sky high. Inflation has not come down. It's increased under this president. So at a time when their lives are already difficult to afford, they're making it worse by not extending these ACA tax credits. And as a result, almost every American is going to see an increase in their healthcare premiums. And not to mention the craven depravity of it all, which is kicking people off of health insurance. It's the first time in our nation's history, that we're taking healthcare away from people. First time. And that's happening because of Donald Trump. And as you heard Senator Warnock say, as it relates to SNAP, they have $5 billion that they could use right now in this moment to make sure that starving kids do not go without food. Yet they refuse to do that. Make no mistake, it will have an impact on this upcoming election because Mikey and Abigail have been focused relentlessly on making sure people can afford their lives.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to John from the Hill. I think probably directed at Senator Warnock and Speaker Emerita. How can you make a deal with Trump and the Republicans on healthcare, knowing that it could be voided at any moment?
Do you want to begin, Senator?
Look, I always defer to the Speaker, the real. but look. Here is the issue that we've been dealing with. They've been saying to us, reopen the government. And, Pat, in other words, and we voted to reopen the government, but they've said, vote for our CR. And don't worry about it. We care about healthcare and we'll fix it. The problem is we have voted to extend these ACA credits 3 times in the past year. And each time they blocked it. So it's kind of hard when the very people who have raised the premiums of 22 million people, doubled them, tripled them, quadrupled them, and kicked 15 million people off of healthcare, it's kind of hard when they say, trust us, we'll fix it. And so what they need to do is come back to the table or come to the table because they've never shown up. And for God's sake, the people in the House need to come back to work. I mean, how ironic is it that these are the folks who added onerous work reporting requirements, support work. People who can go to work ought to go to work. It has dignity and purpose. That's not what this is about. They added bureaucracy so they could kick more people off of Medicaid. So they came up with these onerous work reporting requirements, which people have to certify every time they turn around just to keep their health care. Meanwhile, Speaker Johnson refuses to bring the House back to work. If they subjected themselves to the same work requirements that they're subjecting Medicaid recipients to, they wouldn't have any health care. And so I want you to think about this. These are the folks who won't return to work because they are afraid of the Epstein files. And so they'd rather protect pedophiles than protect your health care. They'd rather protect pedophiles than protect children who are in need of SNAP. Again, I think it's deeply immoral, and we're ready to talk whenever they're ready to come back to the table.
I would associate myself with all of the senator's remarks, but picking up where he left off, you understand that this is an Epstein shutdown. The speaker is not bringing us back in so that he doesn't have to swear in our colleague, newly elected colleague, because she would be the 218th vote to release the Epstein files, which the American people want to see happen. Again, he has sworn in Republicans during when we're not in session, but he won't swear in a Democrat at that same time. So anyway, back to the point of why he won't open it up. Yeah, the question is well founded, because who do you trust in all of this? The president has not been spending money that is there for this purpose. And right now, as we speak in Massachusetts, the attorneys general Democratic attorneys general across the country and a few governors have joined in to sue, so that that money, as Senator Warnock said, is there, that can be spent on food. I think food is medicine. I think housing is a health benefit. But I don't think giving tax breaks to the wealthiest people in America makes our country a healthier place. So the point is, to your question, how we expect this to happen. Every shutdown has been a Republican shutdown. They don't believe in governance. So they're happy with the government shutdown, because then they, as Senator said, they shouldn't even get paid for not showing up to do the job in Washington, D.C. But the point is that how we will succeed is how we have succeeded in the past, how we passed the bill and how we saved the law. It was because of outside mobilization. If people who are seeing this high cost being foisted upon them because of a decision of the Republicans, call their Republican member of Congress and say, I know what you're doing to me, to my family. And we had 10,000 events in 2018 when they were trying to get rid of Obamacare. And now we have to have that same outside mobilization. Open up government. Let's get going with a compromise, not even a compromise, you accepting what has already been the law of the land, to have fairness for America's working families. People are almost afraid. They're shopping for this. They're seeing the higher cost, and the Republicans don't even care. It's heartbreaking, and it's not right. So again, the outside mobilization, I think, will enforce government to open, and for us to now how we can trust them is another thing. These members are not going to have to stop being so afraid of their puppeteer in the White House and pay attention more to their constituents than to their puppeteer. Yield back.
Thanks so much. I think we'll go to our last question from Nate from the Hill. I know Senator Warnock may have to jump, but I think we'll wrap up shortly. I think Speaker Pelosi, if you would handle this one. How do you counsel some Democrats who are growing concerned about the immediate loss of food stamp benefits and are looking for an off-ramp, even amid the fight over healthcare costs?
Is the inference to be drawn from that question that the off-ramp is going to feed the American people? I'm not catching the drift of the question. The money is there. The law is passed. The president has been signed by a president of the United States. This fund is there. It's like a rainy day fund, so that in case anything like this happens, that money is there to feed the people. Now, it also is there if government, that this money would be used as well. So this is a value, as Senator Warnock, the Reverend Senator Warnock said, the Gospel of Matthew, when I was hungry, you fed me. But not these people. I don't know. They go to church on Sunday and maybe they pray there, but they prey on people the rest of the week when they won't even feed the children or seniors who need Meals on Wheels, or our veterans. Our veterans count on these food stamps. So many of our veterans count on these food stamps. So again, I don't know that there's an off-ramp to feeding the hungry. I think we just have to win in court today. I hope that will happen. But that the public opinion on this, again, Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. And we want to make sure that they know that this money is there to feed the hungry, to feed families who need help, some of it temporarily, some of it are longer term, but all of it right there as a value that Congress supported, a president signed. Let's get on with it.
Thanks so much. Chair Martin, I just wanted to give you a chance to weigh in if you wanted to.
No, look, the Democrats in the House and the Senate are unified to make sure that starving people in this country get the assistance that they need from this government, and that people in this country can afford health care in this country. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, it's really critical to note that we have made so much progress in health care access in this country, and we have a long ways to go. But there's one administration, Donald Trump and the Republicans, who have decided to give their rich billionaire friends even more money, that it's going to be on the backs of some of the hardest working people in America. And some of the people who are going to be hurt the most are people, seniors, the disabled, children, folks who are going to have to go without health care, find a new nursing home. People are going to be kicked off of their health insurance and their food benefits, all to give the richest people in our communities even more. It's shameful, it's immoral, and it's wrong. And the Democrats are unified, and we're going to fight back every step of the way. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing us together. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Speaker.
so much. That's all the time for questions we have. If you have any outstanding questions, please reach out to dncpress@dnc.org. Thanks again, and hope you all have the great rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay.